And welcome back to Psychology Every Day. It is Monday, which of course means Motivation Monday, and today I have a longer clip for you. I decided to scrap my result board in the gym because I want to use it to illustrate things for you. So that's very nice of me and deserves a like just immediately, I think. Anyway, this is a longer clip, Motivational Monday, because I want to talk about something that is very important that I've talked about in other clips, but I want to convey a bigger idea to you. When talking about the past, the present, and the future, this is something that is going to have a super major impact on your life, and I'm going to tell you how this works and what you should focus on. So let's begin with the past. What is most important when talking about the past is learning from past experiences and past events. Everyone does mistakes, everyone has bad things happen to them and good things, but do you learn from them? Because when you learn from a bad thing or a mistake, it actually becomes a good thing, because the past doesn't matter. What matters is now and the future, right? Because everyone forgets your mistakes, or you die and then several generations later everyone forgets your mistakes, or you get notorious and get written in the history books. So it's win, 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 win if you can learn from it. Also, to feel gratitude about the past is a good thing. Because gratitude is basically, if you ask me, it is the separator of whether you feel good and bad about your life. I talked about, meaning, pleasure, flow, happiness, and stuff like that, that comes from the positive psychology, but that is from the positive psychology. If you ask me, and if you ask religion, which, I think religion supersedes psychology when it comes to, the humanistic sides, as well as, the meaning of life and stuff like that. I think psychology, of course, I believe psychology in some aspects is one of the best things ever. But when it comes to, the meaning of life and happiness and stuff like that, I think religion is king. And gratitude is the number one thing in the best religions. You should be thinking about the past about 5% of the time, not more, not less, because if you are suppressing it and, burying it, that is also bad. But if you're thinking about the past more than 5%, and this is me talking, not a psychology representative, so take everything with as much salt as you want. If you think about the past for more than 5% of your time, this is a sign of depression. You shouldn't be thinking so much about the past. When you do think about the past, it should be in a learning context or feeling gratitude about things. Take pictures so that you in the future have beautiful pictures and videos, or write a journal of good and beautiful things. Then you can look at it and be like, yay, I like this memory. Pro tip. Should you regret things in the past? I talked to some people, and for me, for a long time, I was like, I have no regrets, because if I go back, I did this choice and I knew the consequences and I did the choice anyway, or I didn't know the consequences and therefore I can't regret it. Or, they say, if I had acted differently, this and this and this wouldn't have happened. And I wouldn't be where I am right now. So if you're happy, that means that you can automatically rationalize every bad decision that you've ever made, because it brought you here and you're happy now. When thinking about this more, I believe that you only really say that until you do things that you really regret. Because when you do things, and if you live life to the fullest, you will do regretful things. And if you don't regret them, then you sort of compartmentalize or rationalize your actions, which doesn't enable learning. However, regretting your past a lot can be good or bad depending on what you do with it in the future. Do you learn from your regrets or not? I have some things that I regret. Let me just come up with any example. I regret spending too many years doing shit jobs and being stubborn and what I call stupid lazy. In Swedish we have a saying that is known as dumsnor, stupid sheep, which is, for an example, driving to a town like 50 miles over or 50 kilometers or whatever, because the milk is cheaper, and then you buy a carton of milk and you save like $50 or whatever, but you wasted extreme amounts of money just driving back and forth. That is stupid cheap. Stupid lazy is the same thing. That is when you be lazy in the moment, but it causes you a lot more effort and bad work in the future. So for me, an example is I really love chocolate milk. Oh boy. And before I had a dishwasher, I would not rinse the glasses. I would just drink my chocolate milk and then I would put the glass in the sink, right? And rinsing the glass would be like 3 seconds of work, but cleaning glasses who have stood for 24 hours full of chocolate milk takes like a minute or whatever, and it's disgusting. That is an example of being stupid lazy. Dum lat. Anyway, I forgot where I was going with that, but that was a good thing as well. Never dwell on the past. So, only 5%, and you can regret it, but, dwelling on it, very bad. Also, you must let it go, the past. You have to let it go. Of course, this is connected to dwelling, but you have to let go of the past, both good and bad. Because you have to let go of the good, sort of to free yourself of, how do you say this? Sometimes you can get sad because your past is really good. It's like waking up from the opposite of a nightmare can be very saddening. Waking up from a nightmare can be very relieving because you're like, wow, I'm not being chased by the grudge or whatever, right? Wow, how nice. But waking up from the opposite of a nightmare, waking up from paradise, can be very depressing. And as you go through life, you will hit ups and downs. And when you're a child, it sort of goes like this. And as you grow older and older, you will at some points hit very high peaks and very low lows. And remembering these low lows is very good, because then you feel gratitude. However, clinging on to very good peaks will depress you for the rest of your life. If you had an amazing year when you were 19, it was the time of your life, no responsibilities, you had money without working or whatever, you had 20 close friends and all you did was party or do the activities that you liked. If you keep referencing and comparing your life back to your peak, it will always seem bad, and then you will never be content with your life, and your future is going to look bleak as well, because you realize that those times are not coming back. And if you're on a sort of course, in a larger scale, you are on a downward trajectory from your highest peak, as far as you know, because you will eventually get to an even higher peak, but you don't see that yet. So in your mind, you are then on a downward slope. So let it go. Let go of the past. You can reminisce sometimes and be like, man, that was a good summer. We had a lot of fun. Nice. Good. But now is now, and I'm going to try to make my present as good as possible. This is what I wanted to make a video about. We are on to the present. It should be present. And I want to talk about presence in the present. Two different words. Sorry. Process is presence, and this is amazing. I am actually gonna not only do this, add another exclamation point and circle it with several colors, because if you only get one thing from my video or my entire channel, it is this. This is amazing. And what do we mean by this? When talking about, as I mentioned earlier, positive psychology, it is more applicable to actually creating happiness in a very pragmatic and concrete way. However, gratitude is necessary to even feel happiness. So without gratitude, nothing else matters. But process is flow, and we talked about flow. This is things like getting fully enveloped in what you are doing. So the best example for many of you, especially guys, if you love video games and you play a video game that you love, and you are so into it that you lose track of time. Hours go by like seconds, it feels like, and suddenly it's 2 a.m. and you're like, damn, I gotta sleep, but all I want to do is keep playing. I think video games are sort of optimized to tap into that flow thing, and also in some other various toxic ways, but that's not what we're going to talk about today. When talking about sports psychology, we have talked about, what separates the great from the mediocre, and some people like to talk about discipline and stuff like that, but that is bullshit. I know this, and I try to, take a sort of humble approach. And as I'm doing research into something that I don't know anything about, because I'm trying to learn more, so I don't want to just use my own perspective and talk about that, because then I'm not learning myself, expanding my knowledge. But of course, this is something that I know plenty about. I started to compete in bench press 2010. I won my first youth national in, I believe, 2012. I don't remember. And I won a senior championship in 2017. And during this time, I lived for bench press. And before that, even as well, I think starting from 2010 to 2017, I lived for it. I lived, breathed, and slept bench press. I remember clearly, I like to do concrete values of things. So I remember a toothache that I valued as I would rather get kicked in the nuts 3 times per day for as long as I don't have to deal with this toothache. And that gives me, when the feeling has passed a long time ago, that gives me sort of a concrete way to think about how painful was that. And let me tell you, I had necrosis in my jaw, and I would have died if this was 200 years ago. It started to swell up, I was getting a fever. That shit will kill you. So they drilled into the bone, awful stuff. Anyway, my concrete value for bench press was that I remember, and I'm not, exaggerating or anything like that, I remember that I would eat literal shit, 5 kilos of shit, if it gave me 1 kilo in the bench press. I would do it, absolutely, no doubt about it. I sacrificed everything that I believed was in the way of bench press. Like I said in another clip, I slept 13 hours a day, every day, and I only took part-time jobs that didn't bother my training or my recovery. And I would spend the remaining day, of course it's only 11 hours, I would wake up and, depending on when I had to work, I would work, but I often actually had afternoon jobs. So I would wake up at like 9 or maybe even 11. Yeah, I would wake up at 11, would just lie in bed and watch, motivational videos, drink my pre-workout. Then I would go to the gym for 3 hours, and then I would go to work, my part-time job, and then I would go to sleep, because it made such a huge difference for me to rest long in the gym between sets, like 10 to 15 minutes, as well as sleeping 13 hours a day. So everything else had to go, basically. And was this from discipline? Absolutely not. I am nowhere near disciplined enough to do such a thing via willpower or anything like that. The discipline for me was in the diet, which I hated. I hated having to eat so much that I felt that I was going to throw up, and that is something that I'm very happy that I don't have to do anymore, and I can just be whatever weight I want. But this was not via discipline. This was complete obsession. And complete obsession sort of with the goal, but more with the process. And if you can focus on the process, you will be in the moment, and then you will experience flow. So whatever your plan is, if it is to be an entrepreneur, or to be an athlete, or to get in shape, or to go out on the club and find yourself a partner, whatever it is that you're aiming at, you set a goal and you make a plan, but then you learn, and believe me, you can learn, you can train yourself, and you will get used to it and love it more and more to enjoy the process, because then you will be in the present, yes, and you will experience flow, and you will become happy, but also you will start to value your success based on the process and not the goal. And this is an insane shift. This is something that I learned from Alex Hormozi. I'm a really big fan. You should check him out. And he also, gym rat. So it comes from this idea of, volume, loving the work. But if you base your success meter off the process, not only will the process and the volume of work become very easy, it will be extremely easy to satisfy your own goals. So let's say that instead of getting rich, your goal, actual goal, not just saying it, you can't just say these things, you have to actually think it and believe it. Let's say your goal is actually to work as much and as hard and as well as possible. Then of course you will, if you have some sort of rationale and logic and ability to plan your economics and budget, you will become rich and successful. Because once you start doing that, you realize that anyone can train themselves to work 16 hours a day hard, and if you can begin to love it and obsess over it, and you will if you keep at it, then you will become like me when I bench press, and you will love the process, and great things will come. But even if they don't, you don't care, because you only care about the process now. So let's say when talking about Fedor Emelianenko, one of the greatest UFC fighters of all time, not UFC, MMA fighters, they feared his cardio because he would explain that he loved the feeling of exhaustion. And then, of course, you don't need any discipline or motivation to do your cardio and your insane mental or physical endurance training if it is your passion. Of course, the result will be an insane cardiovascular ability. So focus on the process, and then you will be present, and then you will achieve flow. And believe me when I say, it is so much easier than you think to learn to love this. It is an acquired taste, but once you really start to see how much happens when you focus on the process, it is the most addictive feeling in the world. Because adding, 10%, 50%, 100% to your actions towards the goal makes such a huge difference that it is unfathomable. Because you have to remember the atrophy hypertrophy scale that we talked about earlier. So let's talk about money. Let's say I'm going to use dollars. Dollars is about the same as euros, and 1 euro is 10 kronor, Swedish crowns. So let's say, for an example, every month your life costs you $1,500. This includes rent, food, and whatever. So $1,500 every month goes away. That's what it costs. If you make $1,500, then the sum each month will be zero. If you make $1,800, of course, $300 will be the surplus. But when talking about $300 compared to $1,500, it's not that much, actually. It's 20% more. But every bit you add upon that makes a bigger and bigger relative improvement, because your atrophy doesn't increase, which is an insane thing to think about. That is why, of course, when you have a shitty job with a shitty salary, an increase in $100 per month feels like a lot. But if you're rich, $100 feels like nothing. So you're already working 40 hours a week to get even. You get nothing in the end, in the future. Nothing. But if you work 60 hours a week, you get and I'm not even counting overtime, get $750 each month. If you save $750 each month in an index fund, in 10 years, that is something like, I don't remember exactly, but I think it's somewhere near $130,000. Of course, you can use that to buy or get a mortgage, buy your dream home, or start a business or anything like that. That is from adding 20 hours a week of work. And if you love the process, if you love your work, if you don't love your job, switch jobs. That is priority tip, by the way. In the present, you have to work hard. We already talked about this. Super important. Not only because you want to get a lot done, but working hard means that you are at the sort of outer bounds of what you are capable of and your competency and skill, which means that it is practice and learning, and this will improve you. It will improve your endurance, it will improve your skill, and it will show the world and everyone around you that you are a competent and capable person, and you will also become it. You also, when talking about the presence, and this is also super important, everything here is super important, you have to play hard. And what do I mean by that? That means that you have to make an effort in doing the things that you like. And that sounds a lot like work, and I'm sorry, but everything that is truly enjoyable and fun requires effort. When talking about dopamine, you can either get it for free or you can create it. So, for example, working is a way to create dopamine, but now we're talking about play. It is much, much, much easier for me to stay in bed, turn on the TV. I have my bed in my living room because I'm renovating my new bedroom, and just watch YouTube, and that will get dopamine in my head. And you can watch Netflix, and this will be enjoyment. This will be your play. But this is, of course, mental trash food. What I want to do is I want to call my good friend who I'm practicing motorcycle driving with, and get out and drive. But this, of course, requires effort. It requires effort to get dressed, get out of bed, get the motorcycle outside, calling him, and of course driving is a physical effort. But of course, this is much more fun. And the problem with staying in and just scrolling on your phone or whatever, compared to actually going out and meeting friends, is that this is garbage. It sucks. It will make your life horrible and trash. When talking about working hard and enjoying the process, it is maybe you think, or maybe you feel that it's not worth it. It's not worth it because I don't want to work 4 hours extra today. We're talking about the presence. I just don't want to. It doesn't feel like it's worth it. Those 4 hours will be an extra $80. I don't give a shit about that. I want to go home. I want to relax. I don't like my job enough. But remember who is watching. The future you is watching because you're looking at your past and you're either regretting things or dwelling on them and learning from them. So the future you is watching, and this is an absolute guarantee. Unless you die, in 10 years you will look back on this time and you will either be extremely proud of yourself and admire your work effort that has put the future you in a much, much, much better position. Or you will look back and think, why did I keep being a lazy piece of shit, afraid of switching jobs, afraid of taking a chance, and just watching Netflix? This is a guarantee, and you don't have to take my word for it because you know it's true, because you can do it now. You can look back 10 years. Your kids, of course, is always watching you, if you have any, but also if you get any in the future. We know this because we have watched our parents and we remember most of our childhood, and they are a huge part of our memory bank. So of course you will be a huge part of your kids' memory bank and their biggest role model. So think about that. You don't even have to, imagine that your ancestors is watching you or anything like that. And, you can believe that. But these two, it's true. You should spend 90% of your time in the present, or your thoughts. You should almost always be in the present. That goes even when you're talking to people. You should be with them in the exact second that you're talking to them. Don't think about anything else. Don't think about what you're going to say next. Don't think about memories. Don't think about what the future holds. Listen very carefully to what they're saying and then respond to it. And this is a pet grievance of mine, I think it's called. I fucking hate it when people don't do this. I just zoom out instantly. Don't rant to me. Don't hold a speech for me. Talk to me. Okay? Good. This will make you stand out in the crowd as someone who is extremely empathetic and a pleasure to be around, because it is so rare, yet it is so easy. When talking about the future, this is very important, because some of you, of course, since you're watching this great channel, have begun to think about the future, whereas you may have never thought about it before. However, it is sort of it's a very easy way to sort of mentally masturbate. It's thinking and planning and talking too much about the future, because it triggers all the dopamine, all the good feelings of success, because you're sort of visualizing and imagining yourself there already, and your brain sort of gets tricked that you have done the thing. So it can be addictive in a very bad way to talk about the future, to think about the future, to plan for the future. But the important part, well, it is important to think about it and then make a plan. But then you have to stop. You set a goal, whatever that might be, to become rich, to get a motorcycle license, to become jacked, to get a girlfriend, to become successful, to start your own company. One of these things, then you make a plan. How am I going to do this? And then you return to the present and you just pin that plan, that goal on the wall, and then you sort of forget about it, because it is in the present that you're sort of always doing a yes or no towards that goal. It is every day that is sort of a microcycle of your life that will that will decide your future. Much like if you're gonna walk someplace, it is every single step that matters. It is not talking about where you're going. It is not planning about where you're going. You simply look on the map and then you go there. And then you check with the compass and you go, oh, that way. And then, you know, if it's a very long journey, of course, sometimes you check the map and you look where you are. And then you go, oh, I need to change a little bit. Do you get my point? I hope you do. Anyway, have a great Monday, everyone. Have a great week. And just remember that the future you is watching, your kids or your future kids is watching. And I want to tell you, if you're still here. If you're still here, you are, you know, the elite of the watchers, of course. Do leave a comment about anything that you would either want to see a video about or comments. I would love to chat with you and have a discussion about anything related to anything. Have a great day.